Now, a fired up Kamala Harris in her first ever interview with Fox News. Harris sat down for the most adversarial interview for her campaign. She locked horns with the Fox News host over the border, President Biden's mental fitness, and whether former President Trump is a threat to American democracy. NDTV's Vishal Vivek has more.
Unstable, Brett.
He's not well. You say he's mentally not stable?
He's not stable.
Let me ask you this.
In a heated Fox News interview, Democratic presidential candidate Kamala Harris repeatedly attacked her Republican rival Donald Trump, calling him unstable and questioning whether the former president is fit to run for the White House. Harris also said that her presidency will differ from Biden's, seeking to deflect criticism over the administration's handling of the border crisis and other pressing matters.
So, you're not Joe Biden, you're not Donald Trump, but nothing comes to mind that you would do differently?
Let me be very clear. My presidency will not be a continuation of Joe Biden's presidency. And like every new president that comes into office, I will bring my life experiences, my professional experiences, and fresh and new ideas. I represent a new generation of leadership.
Soon after Harris's first ever interview with the conservative-leaning network, Trump lashed out at Harris, saying that she has a case of Trump derangement syndrome and that her cognitive ability must be tested. Earlier, Trump also sat down with Fox News in a pre-recorded town hall with an all-female audience where the conversation turned to vitro fertilization or IVF, a fertility treatment that Democrats say is threatened by his policies. It was a challenging topic as women have been turned off by Trump's statements on reproductive rights. Harris's interview with Fox News is the latest indication that Democrats are seriously considering appearances on a network filled with supporters of Trump. Since the party's convention in August, roughly twice as many Democrats have been on Fox than during the same period in President Joe Biden's 2020 campaign. On the other hand, Trump has not shown too much interest in Fox appearances, saying it all just averages out into nothing and that Fox News has totally lost its way. With Vishal Vivek, Arjun Samar Mahindran for NDTV World.
Let's get you more on the story. We are joined by Abraham George. He is chairman with the Republican Party of Texas. Also with us is Amy Dacey. She is former Democrat National Committee CEO. And also joining us is American political analyst and also author David K. Johnston. Now, Abraham, let me first come to you. What do you think about the interview? Lots of talking over each other, as you saw between the host and Vice President Harris. Some saying that it turned into more of a debate than an interview. Harris was clearly fired up. This was Harris's first interview inside, let's say, enemy territory. How do you think Harris did?
Well, it was a train wreck. I mean, if you take a look at the social media today, most of the high topics are about Harris's train wreck from last night. And honestly, she was not able to answer a single question directly. I mean, she said she's not going to be the Biden administration while she's the sitting vice president of the same administration. So if she wants to fix the border, she could do that today. She wants to fix the economy, she could go and fix it today. But she would not consider doing any of that because she cannot distance herself away from the Biden's policies because those are her policies. And she has this Marxist ideology that she's been pushing on the United States.
Amy, I'm sure you're dying to jump in there. A train wreck. I'm sure you're not going to say that.
Well, it certainly wasn't a train wreck. I mean, I think you just saw an interview where, again, you saw the vice president being able to answer tough questions. Well, certainly a male correspondent talked over her. And the bottom line is she has done a lot on immigration. And the obstacle from immigration was literally the former president who side railed a bipartisan, bill that could have really moved things forward in this area. He's more concerned about political wins than he is about people and moving things forward. I think she did a great job last night. I think she laid out specifically what she plans to do, and even President Biden made it very clear that, he definitely didn't represent, the Obama administration. You move on as vice president. If Mike Pence won the nomination and moved forward, it wouldn't have been Trump, 2.0. So I think she did a great job. I think she reached some voters that she could really sway in this election.
David, I'm going to come to you in just a moment, but Amy, I do have something to ask you here. Who do you think Harris was really targeting when she did this interview? This was really an opportunity for Harris to present a point of view that most Fox News viewers don't hear. Some say that she was speaking to a Republican women voters, especially those who had supported Republican presidential hopeful Nikki Haley in the primaries. Haley, of course, seen as a more moderate. What would you say? Who was the target audience?
Well, I think definitely that the Trump-Vance ticket has failed, on women's issues outright. And I think this ability to go to Republican women and talk about, issues like abortion, the economy, things that they can connect with, was definitely one of those audiences that she was trying to reach and was willing to go on Fox to talk to and say that she has a place, on, voting for her in this election.
David, as a neutral voice here on the panel, what did you think? What did you make of Harris's interview? And also, who do you think was her target audience to achieve what she was setting out to do?
Well, Harris was handed a whole lot of very loaded questions by Bret Baier, who's very much a partisan. He's part of Fox News. Her experience, her 18 years as a courtroom prosecutor showed in how she parried with him. She didn't make a single error, and that's one of the most important things when you go into a hostile questioning situation. She didn't say anything that's going to be useful to her opponent in the race. And she repeatedly pointed out that she has specific plans, whereas he has vague promises or concepts of a plan. And I do think much of her effort was aimed at reaching out to women who watch Fox News, because this issue of the Supreme Court taking away a right for the first time in American history has clearly resonated. And in states that are historically very Republican, voters, when given the opportunity, have turned out in favor of women deciding about their own medical care, not the government.
Right. Now, Abraham, Trump has canceled a CNBC interview. He has refused to do a 60 Minutes interview with Kamala Harris, which Kamala Harris has done. It's been a tradition for decades for presidential candidates. If the worry really is that these interviews may be potentially hostile, Trump is not usually the type of person who is, really shies away from confrontation. So I'm trying to understand here what's really holding him back from, like Harris, taking on more such interviews, going into that so-called hostile territory.
Hey, talk about hostile. He was in Bloomberg yesterday and talked about economy and immigration and things like that. Harris came to Fox News just because she knows she's losing this campaign. The only reason to go to the other side to get some people on your side is when your own side is not on with you. So Black Americans are not supporting the Democrat candidate anymore. Latino Americans are not supporting the Democrat candidate anymore. Indian Americans are not supporting the Democrat candidate anymore. So now they have to figure out, what are we going to do? And this is the Hail Mary at the last minute, come to Fox News. And unfortunately, she did a horrible job. She did not answer a single question. I had to disagree with my colleagues on the screen now, because she did not answer a single question directly to Bret. She asked about, hey, how are you going to be different? She didn't have an answer. How are you going to change the policies of Biden administration? She didn't have an answer. So none of this helped her. I don't think the women, the suburban women, is what she that's what she was targeting. She did not make a dent. In fact, they finally saw who she really is, who cannot put together 5 sentences for a specific policy. She couldn't talk about any. In fact, her handlers had to stop the interview early, and Brett publicly said this. They were waving and stopping the interview before he could answer.
Okay.
He could ask any questions to Vice President Harris.
Well, from what I understood was they were trying to get him to wrap up quicker than what he thought the time allotted was. Now, David, I know you have to go, so I'm going to get this last question to you here on the Fox interview. In that interview, we saw several messages from Harris. She leaned heavily on immigration, but I'm wondering here if this was really to target those female Republican voters, then why not talk abortion? We didn't really see that come through.
Well, first of all, the questions determine what's going to happen in the interview. And it was the Fox producers who shut down the interview, which tells you what they thought about how well it was going. Given the opportunity in the question, she's very clear in her position about this, that women should decide, not the government, about their health care. And Donald has the problem that he's bragged that it's because of him that the Roe decision in America was overturned. He's trying to disown that. She's working very hard to make sure it sticks to him. And she just didn't have the opportunity to deeply go into that matter because of the questions Bret Baier chose to ask.